Today's notes are for section 5.3. We're going to be learning about writing proportions and discovering those. So we need to learn how to write proportions. That's today's goal. So have your notes out. Let's fill in a few things on your notes. What you need to know is that to write a proportion, you need to set two fractions equal to each other, which means you're going to be using the equal sign. So we're going to be writing some proportions. These ones are from story problems. So it says a test is worth 50 points, and you got a score of 40%. Now we know that we need to be able to write some fractions for this and set the two fractions equal. So I've got this set up here. And let's do the percent first. Percent, it's 40%, and percent, this little percent symbol really means per. Percent means 100. So really this means 40 out of 100. So to write that, we would write 40 over 100. So then we need to use 50 for the other side. The test was worth 50 points. We have to decide if that number should go on top or on bottom. So looking over here, the 40 was the part and 100 was the whole. And the test is worth a whole 50 points. So I'm going to put that where the wholes go, which is on bottom. And I don't know what it is. So that is how I'd write my proportion. 40 over something equals x over 50. Now, we're not going to do a lot with solving proportions today other than by mental math. And mentally, I could think, well, let's see, 100 cut in half is 50, so 40 cut in half is 20, so that's the number that would make that true. 20 out of 50 would be 40%. So let's look at another one. You try and write the proportion for this, and then turn it back on and check your work. Okay, you should have set up two proportions. We'll do the percent first. I know 80% means 80 out of 100. And then for the next one, the test was worth 80 points. So that was a total amount, and total goes on bottom. And I don't know what this is. This one is harder to work out mentally, so we won't worry about solving that one. I have to figure out what we would have to do to 100 to get 80. Using multiplication division, you can't use subtraction. But today we're just setting that up. All right, so now we need to write a proportion from a table. This is very straightforward. It says in game 1, they got 12 points and they took 14 shots. In game 2, they scored 18 points, and we don't know how many shots. To set that up as a proportion, consider this a fraction, 12 over 14, and set it equal to the other fraction, 18 over x. And then you could do some math to solve it, which we won't worry about right now. We just want to write our proportions. So you try the next one and turn it back on and check your work. Okay, for this one you should have written two proportions equal to each other, and we'll just consider this today. You went 15 miles in 2.5 hours, so 15 over 2.5. And then yesterday you went m over 4, so m over 4. It's as straightforward as that. So that's how you write proportions. Now, sometimes you can solve them using mental math, and we want to think about these using mental math. So I went from 3 over 2 to something over 8, and I think, what did I do to 2 to make it an 8? And the answer is I multiplied it by 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, so in this case, x would equal 12. I want you to try the next two, and then turn your video back on and check them. Okay, on this one we would have said, okay, I had to multiply 7 times 5 to get 35, so 3 times 5 is 15, so 15 would be your value of k. On the next one, I know that 9 times 4 is 36, so 5 times 4 would give me 20. So in this case, b would equal 20. So mentally, we just have to try and think what would work. And that's one way we're going to be solving those today. Now, on your activity that you did with paint, on the back of that activity, it says performance text on the front, and it is salmon in color. On the back, there's a 5.3 practice. If you've not done that, please pause this and do that, and then turn it on to check it. If you have done it, let's work through these together. So turn it off, and when you're ready, come back. Okay, number 1, it says to write a proportion to find out how many points a student needs to score in the test on the given score. So we'll do a percent first. 84% means 84 out of 100. We set that equal to something over 50. This one can be solved with mental math because half of 100 is 50. So I would need to know what half of 84 is, and that would be 42. On number 2, it's 96%, which is 96 out of 100, and that's equal to something out of 75, and that's how you'd write it. And I'm okay if you did not solve that one. All right. although you could multiply it by 3/4 to work it out. Okay, it says use a table to write a proportion. You should have written 104 over 4 miles in gallons, and then 78 over G. We don't know how many gallons here. Number 4, you should have written tree 1 was 15 inches out of 4 years. Well, I don't know how many inches after 3 years. So we're just writing proportions today. Next one says to solve the proportions using mental math. I know that 3 times 4 is 12, so 1 times 4 is 4, so I should have learned that x equals 4. Here I know 5 times 5 is 25, so 9 times 5 is 45, so y equals 45. On the next one, I know 13 times 2 is 26, so 22 times 2 is 44. Now this next one has you thinking a little bit, because I know 13 divided in half is 15, but this says 1.5. So you could take your calculator and say 13 divided by 1.5. Instead of saying 2, it'll say 20. So we've just got some decimals going on here. So if you take 2.6 and multiply it by 20, you should have 52 for B. So those are how to solve those proportions using mental math. Okay, number 9. The local humane society houses 300 animals. The ratio of cats to all animals is 7 to 15. So I have 7 cats for all 15 animals. It says write a proportion that gives a number of cats. Okay. There's 300 total animals, so I don't know how many cats out of 300 animals, and that's how you would write your proportion. And then it says to actually figure it out, how many cats are in the Humane Society. Well, I know 15 times 2 is 30, so 15 times 20 is going to give you 300. So 7 times 20 will give you your x, and so that will be 7 times 2 is 14, so there will be 140 cats at the Humane Society. Okay, you have now practiced writing in proportions, and I would like you to go to page 182 in your book and work out these problems, and then do homework quiz 5.3 and be ready to move on.